Hello everyone, my name is Angela Trejo and I am your social media officer for AWG. In case you missed today's meeting talking about sustainable living for Earth Science Week, I'm here to give the presentation again. I hope that whether or not you got to hear it or just want to look back on it, you get something out of this presentation. So let's get started. First of all, welcome. We're so happy to have you here, whether you're viewing on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. So what do you think of when you hear the word environment? For me, I tend to think of going on hikes, being outside, trees, plants, all that good stuff. But it's really important to realize that the environment is not just the outdoor experience. The environment is not just something that you can separate yourself from. In fact, it's something that we interact with every single day. And there are little changes that you can make to your own daily routine to help create a more sustainable living environment for everyone. So what is sustainable living? Sustainable living is a lifestyle where you try to use less of the Earth's resources and make less waste. This can sound really intimidating at first, but as I said, there are really small changes you can make to your everyday lifestyle to try and reduce your waste and use less resources. Some of the different ways that we do this are through the 3 R's, reducing, reusing, and recycling, which I'm sure you've heard of before, but you can also do stuff like shorter showers, using reusable water bottles, unplugging your devices when you're not using them, thrift shopping, carpooling, composting, and so on. So let's learn a little bit more. Reducing is the idea that you use less materials in general. You create less pollution because you're producing less. One thing that you can think of is using a reusable water bottle. When you use a reusable water bottle, you're creating less pollution because there's not as much plastic being used as if you were using a disposable one. This saves everyone money, and it's a really great way to use less products on a daily basis. You can also buy products with less packaging or buy in bulk. I'll talk about this in a little bit when we talk about our litter-free lunches. Our second R is to reuse. You can do this by repurposing items into new ways. You can also save and share items that are not used very often, like party decorations. Here in El Paso, Texas, we actually have a program through our city called the Reusable Households and Products Program. This program invites people to bring in their different items, usually hazardous waste, which I will get to examples in a minute, and they are sorted and made available to other people in the community who might need them. This is a great way to reduce the amount of hazardous waste that we need to dispose of. Instead, people can use it all up together. Some of the things that you might find at your local station include fertilizers, pesticides, oven cleaners, carpet cleaners, adhesives like glues, brake fluid, antifreeze, and other things. This is on a first-come, first-served basis, so I can't guarantee that any of those items are there all the time, but it is worth noting so that you can donate your own items or look for those items when you need them. That way, you don't have to buy an entirely new product and waste extra material when someone else could use it or you could get it from them. You can also use reusable bags, water bottles, and containers for lunch, or donate gently used items like clothing instead of throwing them away. Lastly, we'll talk about recycling. When items absolutely cannot be reused, you can try to recycle them instead. Things like bottles, cans, and paper can be turned into new items. One of the things that I think is really cool that I've seen around are notebooks made from recycled paper. You can also purchase these items made from recycled materials to show companies that we are interested in where our items come from. It is important to note that here in El Paso, we do not recycle glass. It is also worth noting that we cannot recycle items that have been contaminated with food. For example, if you have a cardboard pizza box, the cardboard itself is recyclable, but you can't throw that in your recycle bin because it has been contaminated with pizza grease or cheese or whatever else was on there. So it can actually contaminate the entire bin, and it's just not a good idea to put anything that has had food touching it in your bin unless you've cleaned it, like a bottle can be cleaned. You also shouldn't be throwing your plastic bags in there, contrary to popular belief. Other good ideas, we mentioned unplugging your devices when you're not using them, eating locally, that way the food doesn't travel as far and you make less pollution. You can eat less animal products, which I'll talk about on the next slide. You can conserve your water through shorter showers or brushing your teeth and turning off the water, or walking and biking, which can also include public transport when possible. Even carpooling helps. So what is Meatless Mondays? You might have heard of this since we've been mentioning it on our Instagram page. Well, here's a good idea and a little illustration of why going meatless even for one day can help a lot. It takes 13 gallons of water to produce a single orange, but it takes 500 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of chicken. You can tell there's a big difference in the amount of water needed to produce a similar amount of food. To illustrate this further, it takes 110 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of corn, while it takes 460 gallons of water to produce 1/4 pound of beef. So that's about 4 times as much water to produce 4 times less the amount of beef than corn. If you want to learn more about this, you can go to the link at the bottom of this slide, and you can actually test your guessing ability to see how much water goes into different products that you may use. It's very interesting and eye-opening. Next, I'm going to talk about our litter-free lunch boxes. So a couple ways that you can make your lunch more sustainable are by using reusable bags and containers, water bottles, silverware, and so on. You can also buy your snacks in bulk and use reusable containers. I had mentioned this earlier, but here's a good example. Right here we have some goldfish. You can buy them in bulk and put them in a snack container that you can wash and use over and over again, or you can buy the snack packs. And as you can see, there's a lot more packaging that is literally being thrown in the trash at the end of your lunch than if you were just to buy it in bulk. So you may want to consider this while you're buying your food. And as you can see, there are a lot of different products used to hold your lunches. You can find something that works for you, and you can make your water bottle a fashion statement too. You can decorate them with your favorite waterproof stickers, you can choose your colors, and just make it a part of your everyday lifestyle. So now we're going to talk about carbon footprints. A carbon footprint is the total amount of greenhouse gas emissions caused by an individual. To simplify this down, greenhouse gases are gases that trap heat in the atmosphere and contribute to climate change. So when you're looking at your own carbon footprint, it is your lifestyle that causes greenhouse gas to be emitted just from the way you live. If you're interested in learning more about this, you can fill out your carbon footprint calculator at this link right here. So I'll take a moment for you to pause and take a picture or write that down. But basically, it'll ask you questions like how many people you live with, how often you drive your car, what type of car you have, and so on, so that you can look and see where you might be able to reduce your carbon footprint and how big your carbon footprint might be. Another thing to do if you have kids would be to go to climatekids.nasa.gov, and you can find games and activities to teach them about climate change. This week, you may have seen that we are doing a Reduce Your Carbon Footprint bingo card. So you can join us all week up until Saturday, October 24th at 5 p.m. You go to @AWG Sun City on Instagram, and you will be taking pictures of yourself doing different challenges from the bingo board. As you do them, post them on your story and tag us, that way we can see, and you'll be entered for a chance to win a $10 gift card. Try to complete at least 5 items to be included in our giveaway. Now let's talk a little bit about native plants. Native plants are plants that occur naturally in our area. Native plants provide food and for other organisms in the area, as well as habitats for a lot of our local animals. Sometimes humans will bring in plants from other places, and these are called non-native plants. They aren't the best idea because they can outcompete plants in our area. They might not be edible for the animals in our ecosystem, and it just might not work well. For example, a tropical plant, if it was able to survive here, might take up too much water for the plants in our Chihuahuan desert to survive. They might be outcompeting them. So one way that we can take care of our environment is by planting native plants in our backyards instead of non-native ones. Some of our native plants include cottonwood trees, which you see down by the river, prickly pear, which you might have eaten before, palo verde trees, and barrel cactuses. And here are some pictures of that. This is what a prickly pear looks like, and they're so fun. They taste so good. I've had their jam, and it's bright pink and delicious. There is a desert spoon. This is an ocotillo. This one is a barrel cactus, and these guys are pretty cool. They're very drought resistant because they hold all the water inside their barrel. This is a palo verde tree, and these are very small trees. They don't need a lot of water, and they can live in full direct sunlight, but be careful, they have spikes. And this one is a century plant, and a century plant is also called an American aloe. They were used by Native Americans for food, medicine, and soap. They're all very, very cool. If you're interested, all of these pictures and info came from the National Park Service, so feel free to look that up and get involved in planting native species. So now we have a little quiz. Of course, we can't join because this is just a video, but I'm going to go over these really quick. So what is not one of the 3 R's that we mentioned? That's right, it's replanting. We can use reducing, recycling, and reusing, all to help create a more sustainable lifestyle. Question 2, what are examples of reusing? Putting plastic bottles in the recycling bin, using old cans as pots for your plants, taking a shorter shower, or unplugging your devices when you're not using them. Using old cans as pots for your plants can be one example of reusing. You're giving those old cans a new life and keeping them out of a landfill. Question 3, what is a carbon footprint? Is it the amount of trash you throw away each year, the amount of water you use each year, or the amount of greenhouse gas you cause to be emitted each year? It is the amount of greenhouse gas that you cause to be emitted each year, and there are small steps that you can take to reducing your carbon footprint. Also, again, just a reminder to join us in our bingo event this week. Which would you not find in a litter-free lunch? A juice box, a reusable sandwich container, reusable silverware, or an apple? You wouldn't find a juice box. Preferably, you'd be buying in bulk and putting that juice into a reusable cup or a drink container so that you wouldn't be throwing that juice box in the trash right after drinking it. Question 5. What is true about our local native plants here in the Chihuahuan Desert? They take up all the water in the area, they can't survive in the heat, they provide food and shelter for our local animals, or they're all cacti. They provide food and shelter for our local animals. So thank you for attending. I hope you learned something new. I hope you get more involved in changing your lifestyle to be a little bit more sustainable. Have a great Earth Week.